I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. Well, the Sonoma finally died. I was driving home on Wednesday last week and it started making a loud whining noise just about the time I got to Galesburg, which is 6 miles from the house. It got worse. By the time I got home, anything above 40 miles an hour, it was screaming like a banshee. I knew what had happened. The differential had gone. Differentials rely on something called oil, and the rear seal on mine had been going. Somewhere just north of Goshen, I think the seal finally went totally. I decided, time to trade in the truck. But now I have a new, it's a 2012. It's new to me. It's in really nice shape, except it had one problem. They have a center console. And the center console, which is this thing, is rather poorly supported in the center. Evidently, anybody who puts any great amount of weight on it breaks it. Yeah, the inside comes out in pieces and it just kind of grenades on you. And I thought, well, I'll just have to buy a new console piece. And you can buy a whole new console piece for about 50 bucks. Or, recognizing that the new one is going to break too, you can buy this reinforcement plate for $14. So that's what I did. I'm going to put the reinforcement plate inside this center console and then it should be fixed. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take the pieces out because they're held in by this piece of foam. And I'm going to remove the foam because I don't need to have the foam holding all the pieces together. And all that would happen with the foam is it'd be trapped underneath that piece of steel plate, making it so that this wasn't a really good connection. Got something underneath it, some kind of double-faced tape that acts like packing tape. Actually kind of a beneficial situation because it tends to peel off. Of course, I've thought about just making one of these reinforcement plates by myself because I have the capacity. It's a piece of plate steel and didn't appear to be anything that was beyond the capability of the workshop. But when I ran across this on eBay, I thought 14 bucks, that's not too bad. That's well within the budget of Sneelock's project money. And it had the benefit of already being done, which is a big plus. I think ideally, if I could take the covering off of this and pull this inner piece out, then I could set the broken piece into the top and put the foam down over the top of that. Can I manage that? As I cautiously remove these pieces, thinking to myself, well, if I totally screw this up, I always have the option of buying a new center console. Well, this looks like a job for super glue. It's always best to do a dry fit up. I know it takes twice as long. But a dry fit up means that you have the opportunity to set your clamps and make sure all the pieces are going to go. Let's see, if I put glue on that, then when this piece of double stick tape had showed up, I would have already had glue stuck on it. And it would have been a problem. But now, it's just a matter of saying, oh, that's in the way, and cleaning it off. And look at that, that's pretty. I might have to remove these parts again because I don't know how these last two pieces fit up. 3 pieces. Well, I got all the pieces fitted together, and this is supposed to be a dome shape, so that all these pieces, when you push down on the top, it tries to spread the walls and tries to stretch all this stuff. So the minute the load got too heavy and the dome lost integrity, all the strength went out of it. So that tells me if I put this back in there, it's going to reinforce it, but it doesn't have a dome shape. It's flat across the top. I need to give it some structure up in there so that when I shove this in, it has some reinforcement underneath that so that it rides on top of this. Something I didn't used to always do, but I try to now, put the cover back on things. When you take the cover off a can of acetone and it gets tipped over, it has a tendency to get everything around it covered with acetone. And that's never good. What I'm trying to do is get that adhesive off of there as much as I can. I have to be careful because this acetone tends to melt plastic, and I don't want to destroy the thing that I'm trying to repair. So I'm going to put some super glue on it and then let the super glue get smushed down into the gap. I'm sure there's a dozen better ways to do this, but this is the way I'm doing it. And since I don't expect to be doing this more than once in my life, this is the only way I'll be doing it. Unless, of course, this doesn't work and then I'll try something else. Well, everything seems to be staying together. That's a good sign. Now we get out the true Mr. Fix-It stuff. JB Weld. Duct tape's nice, but JB Weld is amazing. I actually bonded together 2 broken sections of a engine block on a Farmall B, and they held together for the 8 years that I had the tractor, and they were still there when I sold it. Sealed it up tight against water and oil. Worked quite well. Okay, now I got enough stuff stuck together that things are going to stay, I hope. So while I have the opportunity, I'm going to mix up a batch of this stuff. And then put it in and push this down on top of it so that I form a bond between this and that plastic. And it fills the gap so there isn't any open space in here where that's unsupported. So that dome has something to sit on. This is a bamboo skewer. I like using them because they're disposable and cheap. They also work well. And you notice how this is black and that cap's black? Don't ever mix them up when you put it back together again.
I want to squirt out 2 equidistant lines of this stuff. That's the way you know you got the mix right. It also keeps really well. These tubes have been around, I don't know, a good 8 years. There we go. Now, why have they lasted 8 years? Because I kept the box. You put it back in the box and it doesn't get bent and busted up. If you leave them separate, they end up getting separated, and one without the other is no good. They go back in the cabinet. Then you just stir them together. And when it's all the even shade of gray, then you know you got it mixed. Now you got a few minutes to work with it, but not a whole lot of time. It doesn't set up immediately, but when you've got it gray, you want to use it. You want to make sure and have it all homogeneous. Any spots in there that aren't mixed don't set up right, and you don't want to have it in there and not set up and therefore not doing anything for you. Okay, now we take this stuff and set it down in here. And the reason I'm using cardboard is I don't ever intend to use it again. This is a one-time deal. Now it's starting to set up. There we go. Now this piece goes down in there. And this is the reason for having an overhang on a bench. And now we do the part of the project which baffles some people, but I understand this is what I have to do. I'm walking away. I got JB Weld that has to set up, so I got to leave it alone to do it. If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching.